In the store, I've had a lot of people ask me how to use rulers, so I know there's a lot of interest out there, so we thought today we would show you a little bit, just give you a little touch of what it's like to use rulers. And we have our BERNINA ruler sets for 15% off today only, so I'm going to show you some of those rulers and how to use them. I've worked up some samples for you, and I can do any stitching for you. So the first couple things you need to know about ruler work is you need a special foot for your machine. And on the BERNINA machines, we use the 72 foot. You can see it has a very thick wall here, and that's to protect you from pushing the ruler underneath the foot and really screwing up the timing on your machine. That would be a very bad thing. So you need a high wall foot, the 72 foot, which is here. BERNINA also makes a 72S, which has a little slit in it, and that allows you to move the thread in and out of the foot without breaking your thread if you're going between free motion and ruler work on your same piece of quilt. So today I'm going to show you a little bit on how to use this. The rulers that come in the kits are, let me find my rulers here, are, I don't know if you can get it on camera, they're very thick. They're a 1/4 inch thick, so when the ruler foot rides along here, you're protected from getting the ruler foot on top of the ruler and then the needle into the ruler. That's the most important thing that you need to know, is to not have that happen, because that would be a very expensive fix to your machine. So the other things that you might need is some sort of mat on your tabletop. I can't see what I'm doing from my vantage point here. So this is a slider grid. It's great because it has the grid on it. It has an opening here for your feed dogs to come through, so you could use it with your feed dogs up for your regular sewing or feed dogs down for your free motion and ruler work. So we sell these here in the store, and they're from Sew Steady. So that's a good thing to have. It helps also glide your work along, because you have some little ridges here, and sometimes your ruler might get caught on there. So these little mats help glide much more easily. And let's see if we can't get this on now. I'm not so good with the two-handed method. There we go. All right, so my feed dogs are down here. And most of you know on the BERNINAs, the feed dog key is on the side, very near your power. You just drop your feed dogs. So that's the first thing you want to do. And then we're going to bring up our bobbin thread here. Oh, I didn't tell it the ruler foot. So I'm sewing on the CAFE 770 today. And on that one, you need to tell it what foot you're using. So I'm telling it that we're going to use the number 72 foot. So it knows that with the 9mm plate, which is what we have on, and the 72 foot, it knows that we're okay, we're safe to sew here. Did I not do it right? I'm sorry. I'm nervous this morning. This is my first time, so I'm nervous, so I apologize. We're going to try this again. All right. So I appreciate all of you supporting my solo Facebook Live here this morning. So one of the first things I want to talk to you about is the rulers here. This is the straight edge ruler. It is by far the ruler that you're going to use the most on all of your ruler work. Here's some examples that we have here. This is done with a straight edge. All of these ridges here are done, the background fills are done with a straight edge. You could do cross hatching with a straight edge. You're going to use that ruler more than any other ruler you're going to get. But the boxes, the kits that BERNINA have put together, each one has a different assortment of rulers to be used in different ways. So I just thought I'd show you a couple of them today. Some of the other rulers would be the arc rulers, so you could do arc work. You could do it, it doesn't have to be used just this way. Use your imagination, please. I'm just showing you a few examples of how to use these things. You could use a ribbon. This is a double row on the S-curve ruler, and you could do that. You could stack them evenly, you could offset them. There's a million different ways. Each of the sets comes with a a little kit book that shows you all kinds of examples how to use each ruler. So it's a very good tool to get started with, and then just let your imagination run wild on the different things that you can do with all of these rulers. So I used clamshell rulers here, and I'll show you. So this would be the clamshell ruler. What's really cool about this ruler, it has a little niche here for your foot. So you just start your foot here, bang, bang, and then you can move your ruler down without moving, and you always have the starting point. It has great reference lines. I hope you can see the red and white dotted lines there. You line them up with a line on your quilt that you have either sewn, or perhaps it's part of your block work, so that you get a nice straight line. And then when you get to the next row, you just offset it. And again, very easy to use. The BERNINA rulers have a slightly tacky frosted back, which helps them from they don't slip real easily. So when you're using it along your foot, you don't have to worry about it slipping and all of a sudden you've sewn out into outer space and you've lost track. So, and they're great for that. It works very nicely. If you want to wear gloves, you can. On these small samples, I'm not going to, but we sell a couple of different kinds of gloves. They have the tacky fingers here. So this one has 2 fingers, if that's the way you're more comfortable, and this one has all 5 fingers, and it gives you a little extra grip on your piece. And when you're sewing on large pieces, it makes it easier to move your quilt around on your quilt table. So you might want to consider some gloves also. So let's see, here's some circles. We have a wonderful, I'm going to stretch across here to see if I can't find the circles. Maybe not. No, I'm not. Oh, here they are. There's a whole array of circles. I don't know if you could tell, they're all nested in here, and they're taped together so they don't fall all over the place. But you can take these out, and you could sew along the outside of any circle or along the inside of any circle, and you have all these sizes. One thing I didn't talk to you about is this ruler foot is a 1/2 inch foot. The needle is right in the middle. So that means your needle is a quarter inch away from the edge of the ruler. So when you're sewing, you have to allow for that 1/4 inch extra. You're not sewing at the edge of the ruler, you're sewing a 1/4 inch away from the edge of the ruler.
Sorry, just one question. What is the glove brand that has the fingers cut off?
These are Swan Amity Studios, and we sell them here. You should find them on our website, or you can come into the store. We'd be glad to help you with them. So I just used one of the circles here. I'm more comfortable sewing on the inside of my circle rather than the outside, so that's what I chose to do. And you can see here, you could do circles in it. You could just do 1 row. You could do 2 rows. You can stack them like I have and get that orange peel effect. You could go back and put some fancy free motion quilting in the center of all of these. Again, there's no rules and no limits to what your imagination can think of to do with these. So one of the pieces is a very large piece in which is this flower. So maybe you're going to be doing a whole cloth quilt or a mandala, or you have a big block that you want to fill in on one of your quilts. This is a great way to do that. You have a nice secondary little star in the center, the overlapping of the leaves. Maybe you do some quilting in there. Maybe you get your Inktense pencils out and you shade it in. Again, just a few ideas on what you can do. It's endless on the things you can do. Using the same piece, this same ruler here, you could do a border. So they're kind of like pea pod border, and then you could stitch inside if you want. You could do cross hatching, you could put a feather inside, you could do some mini stippling inside, you could echo it on the inside. So again, lots of different options to get all kinds of different looks. And this is the ruler, and here's a good here you can see the stitching is a 1/4 inch away from the edge of the ruler that we were talking about, so you always need to allow for that room. The rulers have great reference points to help you line things up and keep things straight on your quilt. So, any other questions? Have I talked too fast?
Doesn't look like it. We've got Chris answering some questions. So it looks like we're okay.
Okay. All right, well, I thought I'd just do, let me get a blank one here. We do have, one of the kits has heart rule. It has 4 different size heart rulers. I've just stitched out 3 there. They're very easy to use. So here we could just try a couple of things. I'm going to do the straight edge. I don't have a slider mat and I don't have my gloves, again, just because it's a small piece, but on larger pieces you will definitely find those things useful. I'm an old-fashioned quilter. I pin based. That's because that's how I learned a zillion years ago, and that's the way I've always done it. But especially on these small pieces, spray basting really works well. So if you want to try spray basting, that's another good option. You could also stitch basting. Just do big long stitches on here, if that's the way, whatever works for you, whatever the style is best for you.
We do now have one question.
Okay.
Now that you've mentioned it, can these rulers be used on any machine?
These are high shank rulers, so they're 1/4 inch. You need to know that if your shank is if your machine has a lower shank, you're not going to be able to go around back. On the Bernina machines, we could use this ruler 360 degrees around the circle of this foot. If you have a low shank machine, you will not be able to go around back because the shank and the screw gets in the way. But if you have a high shank machine, yes, you could use it. You could also use these rulers on sit-down, long arms, and frames. So they're very versatile. So let me get my bobbin thread up here. I just like to pull my bobbin thread to the top so I keep my back nice and neat. It's a good habit to get into. And then when you put the ruler against your ruler foot, you're not pressing it with all your might. You're going to bend your shank or your needle bar or something. You just want to glide the foot nice and lightly along the edge of your ruler. Don't use all your might. You're going to use a little downward pressure because you have to move your quilt. So a slight inward pressure and a little more downward pressure to move your quilt. So we're just going to do some. It's best to keep your hands close to either side of the ruler. If possible, you're in a position to get both hands, like if I was doing something, and use both hands on the ruler. That gives your ruler a little bit more stability in holding it straight to create your design. There are a lot of reference points on this ruler for you to use if you want. They're done by 1/4 inches, so you can make your lines apart in 1/4 inch intervals. Although it looks like up to 2 inches on this ruler, so that's great. What else? What else can I tell you about? All right, so let's just pretend that we had a little triangle here. So what would you do with that triangle? I'm going to get to the point. The straight edge ruler is also good for stitch in the ditch.
Barbara, would you be able to give a recap on what machine settings you're using right now?
Yes. Okay, so I'm mostly using the default settings. We have 50 weight thread in here in the top and the bottom. So our default settings is a 475 tension. You could change your tension if you're using different threads. You often do have to play with your tension a little bit. With the 72 foot here, I'm using the 50 pressure point. We have the 9mm plate on. Usually on ruler work you can use the 0mm, the single hole plate also, because you're not doing zigzag work here. So and I have it on a straight stitch. It's on the default for 2.5 stitch length, but you're really creating your own stitch length because you're moving it yourself. You want to try to keep your stitches as even as you can, and that comes with practice. All of this comes with some practice. So
Are your feed dogs down?
my feed dogs are down, yes. So here we'll try a little off the. So maybe you have a bunch of half square triangles in your quilt. We'll just pretend like we're filling in one of those. Make a couple little.
Could you use decorative stitches with this?
Not with the ruler foot. You can do decorative stitches in your quilting. That's a great idea. It opens up a lot more opportunity for different styles and creativity, but you wouldn't use it with your ruler foot, and the decorative stitches you're going to want to have your feed dogs up. So I'm just putting a few little spokes in here to decorate my half square triangle. You can make these thinner or thicker, or you could round them instead of square them off like I have. I made that one a little too skinny. So, but anyways, you get the idea. So that's a nice fill for a half square triangle. I can show you how this clamshell works. Let me twist my sample around here. That's the nice thing about having a small piece, is you could easily rotate it. When you're doing quilts, you really can't rotate it that easily, so you need to learn how to use your ruler all the way around your ruler foot, not just in one direction. So now I'm using the edge of the strip here as my baseline, and I've lined it up with the registration marks on the ruler. See how the foot just fits into that little niche, and it tells you when to stop. So it created two nice even clamshells, and you could go on and on for as many as you want to make. This ruler has lots of different sizes. I'm using the small. There's an extra small. There's the large one and the medium one. So you have 4 different sizes of clamshells on one ruler. You could use them in succession. You could use them individually. You could use them together. Let's see if we can't put some little ones in here.
We do have a couple of questions popping up at the moment.
Okay.
We had someone, they had a hard time. Any tips for being able to move the fabric and ruler simultaneously without difficulty? We have some people who say they're having problems.
The biggest thing I can say is that it's practice, and none of us want to hear that. It just takes time to learn, experimenting with how hard you're pressing down, the weight of, you might have a heavier batting, you might have a heavier backing, maybe you're using minky. You know, all of those things are variables in how much you're going to press down to move it. I'm using a very light, small piece here, so you can see it's moving very easily. But a bigger quilt is a little bit more challenge. And so these are the mini clams. So we just put a couple of mini clams inside the big clams to fill them in a little bit.
And then you were talking about how it has to be a high shank machine to be able to use these rulers.
Yes.
Does that also apply to the older models, like the B1160 or like a 990?
They have legacy feet. It's called a legacy foot, and it's on that allows you to have a ruler foot on these older machines. We do have all our feet online, so you can look, but as the older machines, if you have the black numbers on them, you're looking for a legacy foot, and they did do that. I saw that there was one question about a beginner quilter. I would really recommend looking at quilting with walking feet first before you go to the rulers, but you're welcome to jump in at any time, but that would be my recommendation.
Okay, thank you. I've just written a few more of the comments here.
We can't do one of the hearts.
You're not using the ruler to move the quilt, correct? You're doing that?
Correct.
yourself.
I'm doing that with my hands. And that's why it's so important to keep your hands fairly close to the foot so that you have this area flat and free of any wrinkles or bunching. You want it all nice and smooth. At least one hand, obviously, on the ruler at all times. If you can do two hands on the ruler, if you can get another finger in there on the ruler, that's great too. Let me see if we can't.
How does someone find out if they have a high shank machine or not?
Your manufacturer will tell you. You need to check with your individual manufacturer. All right, so we're going to try. Let me get the bobbin thread up here so I don't get a bad nest on the back.
And then do you have your, I don't know if I'm going to say this correctly, you have your foot pedal programmed for backwards sewing?
No.
No, okay.
I cut my bobbin. I'm sorry. I cut the bobbin earlier, so it's not going to pull up because it's not long enough. So we're just going to go like this. So this is the big heart, which I hadn't made one of those. So I'm going to use all my fingers on this because, as you can see, it's quite a large ruler, and I don't want the bottom slipping while I'm trying to keep everything nice and even. So you just gently, and do it slow. You don't have to be a Speedy Gonzales here. Do it slow. And you just gently guide it around the edge of your foot. And when I come to the tip here, the foot, you can see the foot is kind of nestled right in there, which makes it tells you exactly where to stop, and you'll have a nice point on your heart. So I remove my ruler. I'm going to flip it over to get the other side. And I don't have any registration lines here, so I'm hoping I'm going to match up because I didn't draw any registration lines. So we're going to hope it matches up at the top. If you use your registration lines, it will match up, as you saw the samples that I made. The registration lines are these red and white lines on the ruler, and you want to line them up with lines on your quilt to keep your motif straight and even. And if you don't have a line on your quilt, you're going to draw something with chalk or one of our, there we go, that was pretty good for not having any registration lines. So there you have a nice heart. Let's get it. So that's how easy it is to make the heart. And again, these rulers are they're nicely coated on the back, so they really don't have a lot of slipping potential. It makes it much easier to hold on to them, and they're not slipping out of the way, so your design, your motif is complete. So I hope that helps with a few ruler questions. These rulers, there are 4 in a box. Each box has its own wonderful illustrated examples with some directions on how to do some designs, and you can go from there. And again, they're all 15% off today. So until 4 o'clock today. So give me a call, go online, come in the store, whatever works for you, and we'll get you set up. Each kit is a little different, so look at them online to see which rulers might work best for what kind of work you want to do.
And just for clarification, because we do have a few, a question about that is, if they go onto our website and order the rulers, would they still get the discount?
Yes, they will.
Awesome.
It's marked down already.
Fantastic. All right. And then to those people asking about the older machine models, as Judy said earlier, for example, like a 440.
440 is not an older model.
Oh, not an older model? Okay, sorry.
440 has... Okay, so here's the basics on whether your machine is an older model or not. Yes, if you have a 440, we'd love to have you have a new 770. But the deal is, if your feet have red letters, then you can buy any feet, with the exception of whether you're a 5mm or a 9mm. So what we consider feet, legacy feet, and what you need to have as a legacy foot is going to be black numbers on your machine, like the 1008, the 990s, the 830s. Those are truly, if your feet that you're using have black numbers, then you want a legacy foot. And Bernina did make the ruler feet legacy feet. Now, the other thing that you saw is that Barbara has a Sew Steady table on there. your slide-on table that you get with your machine is not enough, and it doesn't give you a straight surface. So you will either need a cabinet that's going to be able to lower and give you that surface. It cannot be curved, it needs to be straight, or as Barbara has it set up in her home and my home, that you have the So Steady tables, and So Steady is online. You can order directly from them in multiple sizes, and it fits each individual module. So you would absolutely need that, either a cabinet or a So Steady table. So, but the feet is, even though we know a 440 is an older model, it still has red numbers on it. So that's our trick. That's how we know.
That also might have been me.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
Saying it incorrectly.
Yeah. No. It's definitely a question we get asked, and the whole thing is whether you Bernina had to change the feet when they added a manual threader to the machines going forward. It moved where the foot fit. So it wasn't that they wanted you to buy more feet, it's that they really engineered it so you had to buy more feet. So.
And then so there are a few people who have asked questions. We have already answered those at least once. I would like to encourage you to just wait a couple minutes for this to get put up on our Facebook page and go rewatch it. We don't have, unfortunately, the time, as we do have to go open the store, to go back and answer these questions. But they are there. We did already do it. You just came in a little late, which is totally fine.
Yeah, that's why we have replay, and then it'll be posted on YouTube. So feel free to share it with any of your friends who might like to watch it. We do have all of our Facebook Lives from Saturday mornings on our YouTube channel. So we encourage you to go back and use that when you get to the point where it's pertinent to you. So thank you for joining us. I was not supposed to be on camera today because I didn't put makeup on. But I'm back. I spent a month in India, so I am back in Virginia now and happy to be here. So thanks for joining us. Barbara did a great job.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
And it was, I always learn something. So it's great that you're here. So thank you for joining us. I have no clue what next week is, so I can't even give you a heads up on that because I'm still in Indian time. So thank you. Have a great day, and do something creative today.
Go do some damage on Small Business Saturday, please.
Yes,
Thank you.
come shop. We don't want to be lonely.